Hey, welcome back. So let us start off bright and early and get right to the point. I believe in God. You may not believe in God. Maybe you believe, maybe you don't. You're not sure. Maybe whatever you are, wherever you are at in your quote unquote journey or your path to discovering and finding who God is and knowing Him. I welcome you, and let us, like I say, start with the fact that he exists, right? Let us take that and then let's move forward from that point. So, if you are not sure God exists, continue listening, obviously, but I'm going to assume that he exists and that, and then we can start building on this foundation, right? And hopefully, you come to the same conclusion. So there are many people out there who are atheists. They do not believe in God. They are very convinced that God does not exist. And um, I remember one of the greatest French mathematician and philosopher. He once said, and this is Pascal. You might know him. He said that, the heart holds conviction which the head knows nothing of. And what does that mean? Basically, it means that your heart has convictions that your mind does not know about, right? There's some things that your heart knows that your mind does not know. And there's some things that um, your heart knows that your mind does not know, and some things your mind knows that your heart does not know, right? So they need to work hand in hand. The heart and the mind needs to go hand in hand, and sometimes there are things that you cannot explain. A couple of days ago I asked, as one of the questions of the day, um, what do you believe that science cannot explain? And I asked people that question, and most of the answers were about faith and miracles and love and all kinds of other stuff. You can listen to it one of these days. I might link it down below in the comment section. So this question was really good, and the response that I got was really good as well because they were really insightful. People who were really thoughtful of this question, and they really explored it, and they really shared their point of view and answered it as best as they can. So there are certain things that science cannot explain. And sometimes we say that these things are miracles. Sometimes we say that these things are just beyond science. And it is true. The conclusion of that matter, which was is evident as you hear it, is someone said that faith deals with the supernatural, whereas science deals with the natural. And I kind of put those into those words, but I heard it in the background. Like sometimes people percolate and then they don't really have the final, um, um, you know, um, you need to make it concise, right? So I think I tried to jump in and say that, but this is what I heard, and this is what I believe, and I believe it's true. There's certain things that are supernatural that you need more than science and math to prove. And here, Pascal, Pascal, the great French philosopher and scientist and mathematician, he said the heart holds convictions which the head knows nothing of, and it is very, very true. There's a part of me and every one of us that may be an atheist, right? And there's a part of you and everyone, again, that may be a believer. And why is that? Because sometimes we're so used to science nowadays, we try to use science to prove everything, right? So sometimes we use the scientific method to prove one thing, and sometimes we find that science falls short. It doesn't, it's not complete. It is not able um to deal with every issue and come up with like a concise and tangible answer, right? Sometimes it's just intangible. And so God is one of those things, and one of those topics. And he is a person, but in this case we're talking about God, and the topic of God and his existence and all that is sometimes beyond our understanding. And that's not to say that um, you know we are stupid or we're not smart, because God is God. Like, he is beyond our intellect, he is beyond our universe, he's beyond science, he's beyond all manner of understanding. He is beyond understanding, almost. I could say that with a clear conscience, that he is beyond our understanding. His ways and his thoughts and everything he does, his actions, are all so far above and so high that we can never attain and reach and understand completely his intentions and his motivations and his actions, his thoughts, his behavior, and even dare I say his emotions, and all that makes him makes all that makes God who God is, because he is infinitely above and beyond our understanding. But he has revealed himself to us, which is where we're going to get to in a few. In this video or next video, basically, we're going to talk about how God is beyond our understanding and ability to comprehend. So, back to the point where I say there's a part of us that believes and there's a part of us that does not believe, and that's something we have to struggle with. Even Christians who have been Christians and believers for a very long time, they struggle with this, that there's a part of them that believes, there's a part that doubts, and doubt is not a sin. Unbelief is a sin, and we'll talk about sin more in the future. So King Solomon, he existed. He lived. He was a king of Israel back when they were still a nation. He's the son of David. As some of you know, King David, he was the king, and he's the king of Israel. He was, and his has a son, and his son's name is Solomon. And Solomon basically took over the kingdom after David died. So he ruled in Israel, and Solomon was a very wise man. And he wrote many, many thousands of years ago in the Old Testament that, in Ecclesiastes, actually, he wrote that God has set eternity in the heart of man. So, what does that mean? It means that, well, first of all, God exists. Like in the beginning, like if you look at the Bible, in the beginning, God created the world, right? And the Bible assumes that God is true, he exists, and so am I. I'm going to assume that he exists. And in this case, Solomon also believes. And from that foundation, from that platform, instead, if you're not on solid ground, you're on sinking sand, and you're on quicksand in many cases. So he starts with God. God has set eternity in man's heart, which means we are all eternal beings. We are very different than animals, and we're very different than all kinds of other living things, like including trees and plants and animals and insects. We are very, very different. Man is a very, very different um, creature. Yes, we are created, we are creatures. God created us. So, man, we exist, and some men exist and they doubt God, and they don't even doubt. They actually completely they, yeah, they don't believe at all. There's unbelief, and those who doubt doesn't mean that they do not believe. They just have questions. And if you are listening to this and watching this, and you're having questions, that is legitimate, and this is why we have this platform, and we're going to talk about these topics, because you are free to disagree and question and doubt, and ask your questions in the comments, ask your questions, anything you have in your mind that you want to want clarification from. I will try to get to it as soon as I can, exactly, since I'm doing this challenge, this July challenge, where I'm trying to create all these videos and go through all these research and content and stuff, I might not respond immediately, but I will at some point. So don't lose heart, just put it in the comments and I'll get to it as soon as I can. So those who doubt the existence of God, they doubt, they have questions. And that is completely fine. It's not a denial. It's not denying God exists or denying what the Bible says or any of those things. It is honest doubt, and you can have doubts. Honest doubts are not a barrier to knowing God. They actually help you to get to know God at some point. The questions you ask, as you find answers, you will slowly see that God is revealing Himself to you. Like I said in the introductions, God has to reveal Himself to us because He is so far beyond us intellectually, mentally, and scientifically, and all that other stuff, that we cannot know Him unless He reveals Himself to us. So let us examine, all that the Bible says about Him. Well, not all, but let's examine some things that the Bible says about Him in the light of truth. And if your doubt exists, that's fine. Let's talk about it. If you are skeptical or you have doubts, like I said, this is a safe place to talk about it. Ask your questions in the comments, and you know what? Don't be afraid to look at the hard facts, and don't be afraid to change your mind. People, all right, so let's move on. Basically, a lot of people ask, can you prove that God exists, right? And I'm not necessarily here to prove that God exists, because I have the Bible, have my personal belief and my personal relationship with God. So to me, those are foundational to me, and everyone should have their own personal relationship with God. And proving God exists is, I'm going to say, His prerogative, His responsibility. God Himself should prove Himself that He exists, right? And that's why we assume that He exists. And obviously, I've gone through times and I've gone through a lot of experience that I know personally that He exists. But everyone needs your own personal relationship that God exists. And so I'm not here to provide that. And if He reveals Himself to you, and when He does, your eyes will be open, and you will understand a lot of these spiritual things that we're talking about, how God exists, and how you may or may not have proof from Him directly that He exists. So mainly when people say that, I would also have to say that I can't prove that He exists, just like I can't prove that He does not exist, right? So we're in this position where we cannot prove either way. So, but like I said, I know personally that He does exist, and I know Him personally, and so I wish that you too will also know Him personally. But I cannot prove that He does or does not exist. But let me propose and offer the Christian position on this, right? Assuming that you believe and follow and accept these steps. Yeah, like I completely believe that if you're listening to this and you're listening to this whole series, that God will reveal Himself to you. He will use me in one way or another, and He will prove to you that He exists. So don't worry too much about it, right? Sometimes let me give you an example, right? So if I am eating an orange right now, and okay, I just grabbed an orange, but you can't see my orange, but I just grabbed it, and I am opening it. I'm peeling the skin, and I'm going to take a bite of this, and I'm going to tell you that this orange is tasty. It is juicy. It is sweet. It is not sour. It is sweet. And you're going to ask me to prove it. And I can't prove to you that it's sweet. Right? You need to taste it for yourself. You need to come here and take a bite and taste it for yourself. Just like someone who says that is a beautiful sunrise or sunset, or that's a beautiful mountain, right? I can't prove to you that's a beautiful mountain, that it is sublime, that it is gorgeous, right? Just like I can't prove to you necessarily right now where you are that the Grand Canyon is vast and what have you. There's no way to prove it on my part, but you have to discover it yourself. You have to taste the orange. You have to look at the sunset or the sunrise or the mountain or whatever else. You need to see it for yourself. So, in the same way, you need to see God and discover Him and let Him reveal Himself to you yourself. I cannot prove that it exists, that He exists, just like I can't prove that the orange is sweet. Even though you may look at my expression, I might be smiling and I'd be like eating a whole, all the rest of the orange. But at the end of the day, I can't prove it. And you just have to take my word for it. And you can taste it yourself. So in the same way, you can get to know God yourself, right? So I'm going to end here today, and I will continue tomorrow with the question is not answered completely yet. It's just an introduction, I guess, to the first section, which is, does God exist and where is He, right? Where is God? Is God there? Does God exist? And is He there? So we'll continue tomorrow. And I thank you for watching this. I really appreciate it. And I love to hear your comments and anything you have to say at the bottom of this video in the comment section. Please let me know your thoughts, and let's not be disagreeable. If you have questions and doubts, like I said, it's completely fine, but let's not get negative and start fighting, and don't fight with other people who comment differently or think differently at this point. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you again. I'll see you tomorrow bright and early. Bye for now. Take care. Stay safe.